I'd like to welcome everybody to the Coaches in the Mouth pod. This is Coach Jeff Williams along with Coach Daryl Fimple and the Mouth Brent Bender. This is our high school preview. Got a special guest, got Thomas Thrash here from Hootens magazine. Right here. Here we go, baby. Look at it right there.
Football season.
It's here.
Football season.
Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of the Coaches in the Mouth podcast. Today, we have a powerhouse episode lined up for you. But before we get started, we want to thank a couple of our partners. We'll start with a huge shout out to Lindsey and Associates. Lindsey and their team have been leading the real estate business in Northwest Arkansas for over 50 years, and they are the driving force behind our podcast. Before we get to our guests, we want to thank Andrea Stone Hanna, attorney at law. If you need legal expertise that you can rely on, Andrea Hanna and her team are there to support you every step of the way. Plus, an extra thanks to ETX NWA Rentals, providing top-notch rental solutions in Northwest Arkansas. If you're looking for quality rentals, they've got you covered. If you enjoy today's podcast, consider hitting subscribe to allow us to continue to bring on these incredible guests. Enjoy the show.
Well, Thomas, hey, we've been fixing to dive into 2A, 3A a little bit. Your book is outstanding. I mean, we've dove into talking to these guys already. Talk to us a little bit. Give us just a brief before we dive into these kids and these programs about where they can find the book and what we're doing. It's been outstanding.
We were at Walmart's, Walgreens, Kroger's, Harps, some Double B's, and a lot of local small town markets in small towns, and we have to hand deliver all of them. But no, you can find a map of on our Facebook page of the locations where we're stocked.
No doubt. Well, we've got into it. Let's jump into it. Let's go ahead and jump into 2A. Last year, let's do a little recap, man. 2A got real interesting last year, especially for Coach Fimple.
Mineral Springs, Murfreesboro. The Rattlers.
We were at that game, and I was in Murfreesboro.
We didn't know anybody was going to score. I mean, both of them were giving up 8 points. It was amazing.
Recap. Well, the boys down at Bigelow ended up holding the trophy at the end. Coach Luke Starks and what a phenomenal year those guys had.
Story.
But I tell you, looking at this deal this year, there's going to be a lot of great teams, and looks like this could be one of the most competitive divisions we've had. Let's go ahead and get into the 1-2A, which – boom, defending state champions. We'll start with you, Thomas. We're kind of breaking this conference down. Defending state champions, Bigelow. The coaches haven't picked number 2 with Conway Christian. He's got a great quarterback in that part of it. We got a tradition, Mount Ida sitting in that league, Mountainburg, Hector, Magazine. Those that break this conference down for us.
Well, Mount Ida had 15 sophomores last year, 4 maybe juniors. So now they took their lumps, but they're now going to be older and they're going to be better. And I look for them to be much better. But Conway Christian, who lost to Bigelow week 9, it was their the final conference championship. It was a really close game. I look for them to have a really good season. Bigelow lost a lot of guys from that senior class, especially the quarterback, Rhett Newmeyer and Carter Alexander. And then they lose a receiver who transfers to Quitman. And so, they're still fighting. I still think they fight for the conference championship, though.
With them and Bigelow. I mean, it's a tough league. I mean, boom, they're coming out there. Conway Christian's there. Coach Fimple, let's head to the 2A. I mean, this is a conference we really got into it last year. I mean, we loved it. You got Mark Tree by the coaches poll picked to win it. Des Arcs in that bunch. EPC, who we loved last year, made it to the state finals. Cross County is my team that I really want to watch. Coach Van Pascal taking over there. And you know what? I think they want to win. I think their administration wants.
Mark Tree, though, it's got Kenyon Carr. The beast, 3,400 yards passing last year. I mean, kind of for 37 touchdowns, more than that if you add in his running stuff. I think that's the big key to high school football this year is, do you have a returning quarterback? We've seen it in the past. Everybody that had one last year, they're trying to replace that guy. What's funny is if you read up on all this stuff, is the coaches' kids.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of coaches' kids at quarterback this year. Yeah. I mean, and it's not just because they're coaches' kids. Yeah. I mean, they're throwing up some big-time numbers. So you look look at Mark Tree, it starts the quarterback position, especially in Arkansas football this year, and the spread and getting it to athletes. And Mark Tree's got a slew of them. But man, what a conference!
But T.J. Hodges, so the running back, the 4-star running back who left to go to Maumelle in the summer. And so Dad called me and it's like, we're at Maumelle. He calls me the day we went to the printer and it's like, we're back in Mark Tree. So he is in the Maumelle book, and then, so he's a game changer though. I mean, he's a 4-star. He's going to be good.
Well, let's do this. Let's bring one of the coaches on. Let's go ahead and bring Coach Van Pascal, Cross County on. Let's go ahead and bring him on, our BSN guest here in 2A, Coach Van Pascal. Coach, you've been doing this a little while, man. When you went over there, we got really big on Cross County last year. They had a good year. Man, your league is very, very tough, which we'll get into, and overall in the state. Talk to us a little bit about the move coming to Cross County. I mean, you're familiar with that area. You've been at Brinkley Win and some other places over there, and you're a proven winner, future Hall of Famer, whole 9 yards. Talk to me a little bit about coming to Cross County. I mean, it looks like it's really going – the upside's really good there. Got a great administration, superintendent, really supportive. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, coming in from Heber last year, about mid-January, I guess, I met with the superintendent and we had a long powwow, I guess. And long story short, he's saying all the things that a guy at my age is looking for as far as football is concerned. Now, let me say this about Heber Springs, Arkansas. It was a tremendous experience. The people were great. There was no issues going on. At the end of the day, after praying about the situation, I just felt like that Cross County was the place to be. And, we still had a home in Wynn that we had not sold when we left. So when you're kind of in between, and you know how this thing works when you're married, Mama's not happy, nobody's happy. But, that was a big deal. So she wanted to be back in her house too. And so long story short, it all worked out. But Dr. Nathan Morris, I was impressed with him. I really was. And so, they want to wonder in Cross County, and that's why we're here today.
Yeah, Dr. Morris is an outstanding administrator, and he's really pushed athletics to know the importance of it. Well, talk to us. You inherited this team. You come in, looks like you got 5 guys returning on offense, 6 on defense. I mean, with today's world, you get guys coming in or guys sleeping. I think we spent more time talking about transfers on this show than anything else. But talk to us a little bit about, what your team looked like. I mean, your conference, you're sitting there. I mean, we were looking at it earlier. I mean, it's kind of a who's who a little bit with everything involved there. I mean, Mark Tree's going to be unbelievable. EPC's in the finals last year. A great conference. Where do y'all fit in, and what are your thoughts on the conference?
Well, those are. I mean, I know on the hoof that all those teams are good. I'll be honest with you. I haven't studied, and I have looked at film. I looked at our guys on film. I didn't really look at the other guys a whole lot. I saw Mark Tree is very athletic. I thought East Point State County was a very physical football team last year. They're kind of scary. Desart's going to always, they're tough. It's a tough league. But for me coming in January, I'm focusing on what our guys did on film, looking at it on the defensive side, the offensive side somewhat, and this going from there and trying to correct, fix, and do the things that we want to get done in this program. So we're, this is year 40. It took me a while to believe it, but I'm kind of a John Wooden fan now. You hear about him tying shoes first. That's kind of where we've been, and still what? Some days we're still tying shoes and trying to get them out of bed. You know what I'm saying? But and then play football. But flex bone offense is what we're doing. Defensively, we're going to be multiple. There's some things that we want to find out what they can do to put them in the best situation as far as the defense is concerned, but it's always the basic stuff. You got to block, tackle, kick. You can't get beat deep on defense. You gotta win the line of scrimmage. You know that. Be in the right place, and then let them play. You guys can play offensively. We run flex bone, read, react, pitch, and still, all hard work. I mean, you got to get in the trenches. You got to dig. You got to play low. It's just so I, honestly, to answer the question, I haven't focused so much on the other teams as I had us. We've had no team camps. When I got to Heber, I said, hey, I'm not worried about team camp. I'm worried about us. Did the same thing coming in here. So, it's our first team camp will be a scrimmage against DeWitt on August 20th, and then we get to find out a little bit about who we are there, live. But so it's a process. I do know it's a tough league.
Yeah, it is, obviously. Well, talk to our people a little bit about this, and you've done it all levels. I mean, you've been big levels, you've been smaller levels.
Yeah.
Talk to people how hard it is to win a state championship in 2A and 3A. I mean, you play a lot more games, you got less people, and just the injuries and things that, one injury can screw the whole season up, like any classification. But talk to our audience about, and you've been there and understand it. You're looking at 2A, Junction City's back, Carlisle is going to be up there. I mean, your league, Mark Tree, EPC, Desert. I mean, just looking around, there's a lot of hard, big tradition. Talk to our young coaches and just our audience in general, how tough it is to win at 2A, just avoiding the injuries and just a long play out.
Well, you got to be healthy, and you got to be healthy in 7A as well. You know that you've been there. Players are players. It's hard. Nobody's going to be as good as the one. The two comes in. If you got a 2 as good as the 1, you're going to win a state championship probably. So there was a time probably when I was at Brinkley when our numbers were low or struggling. I was a young coach learning the thing, and it took my wife to kind of really help me. She was a kindergarten teacher, and she said, you always come home and talk about 2 kids. They're like you, they'll run through a wall. She said, what about those other 20, 25 kids you got out? You got to find a way to reach them. So she changed my perspective on things and then began to build numbers. And I thought, well, if I could get 40 kids out when it was 3A football, that would help us. And it did. And so when we got to Eber last year, we had 22 kids when I got there. I said, hey, let's start playing for 40 kids. God likes the number 40 in the Bible. You'll see that. But so we got 40 kids out, and then we put 11 on offense, 11. You got 2 kids that's going to always probably play both ways. They're just athletes. But if you can get 9 fresh kids come off the field and rest and come back and play, and they're pretty good, it makes a difference. And then get those kids involved in special teams as well. So we did that. We're trying to do the same thing here in Cross County. We'll see if it works. Sometimes it don't work. Sometimes you just got to go with what you got at the end of the day. Yeah. But if you can get kids involved and everybody's playing, it helps morale. They buy in, and you can win some ball games, and then all that stuff helps. But you got to be healthy. And then you got to kind of hit a wave and breathe success. When you get some success, everybody starts buying in. You know how that stuff goes. But yeah, that's the scheme. That's the game plan today. It can change. You got to monitor and adjust. But that's what we're trying to do.
Well, let's end with this right here. Let's talk about your football team. Like I said, you've been focusing on them. You haven't been team camping and 7-on-7. A lot of people, I think that's smart. A lot of people, you run out there and they don't know what they're doing, and you want to be organized. That part of it. Talk to us a little bit about the team that you've inherited and what you've learned over the past few months.
Well, we've got a kid, Danny Bill. If you heard Danny's been recruited by a lot of people. And he's got the size 6'5", 330. Still a work in progress, in my personal opinion, but he's going to get there. I think that he can do it. I really do. I've had some other kids that I thought might not, but I believe this kid can. But he's still raw. He's just turned 16 not long ago, so he's a kid on the radar. Roger Williams, another kid, 6'4", 330. That's got some offers out there. Those are lineman type kids that have a chance to be pretty good. After that, I mean, you get into just your average hopefully hard-nosed kid. There's not going to be there's stars, that you might know. Gunnar Land will be a senior. He'll be a linebacker for us somewhere that's played for us. We got a lot of kids that are going to be juniors and sophomores that's going to start and play a lot of football this year. The senior class is kind of small. So those 2 jump out. Isaiah Huff is a kid I think could be pretty good to be a senior for us also this year. But like I said, this is kind of a 2-year deal here with these kids, possibly longevity. Yeah.
Well, it looks pretty obvious what we're doing here. We're getting prepared for a little run, and you've done that. You've done that for many years. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming on. We'll have you on during the week, during the season. Obviously, you've got some big games
come up not only in non-conference, but your conference schedule. Man, it's brutal week in, week out, and that's a league that 2A we love to follow because, man, they get after it, and your credibility come to that conference, and your reputation is going to be awesome, and we look for a long run with Cross County this year.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and thank you very much for having me.
That guy's been around, and everywhere he's gone, he's always won. And I think that he's right there, familiar with that area. Win, he was at Win for a little while, but he's always won. He feels very optimistic. Do you think, I'm going to ask all three of here, do you see a potential champion coming out of this league? Start with you, Thomas.
In the 2A.
Yeah.
I don't want to say Junction City's head and shoulders above everybody, but it's very possible. Mark Tree is very loaded, and they can give him a push. Cross County with Pascal, he's a veteran coach. I mean, obviously he's won 250 games. You don't know, you don't do that by accident. So I do think, and looking at what he did at Heber Springs, I saw them play 2 years ago, and then did expect a lot from him the first year, takes him to the playoffs, and maybe even a 2 or 3 seed. He's a good coach, so I expect big things.
Well, he's one of those coaches that he's not going to lose a game. It's not going to be on him. They're going to take care of the football. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to be good up front. He's going to figure out how to block people. He inherits a team that's got 5 starters back on offense, 6 on defense. And they're sitting in a great league. Sometimes when you play people, even if you get beat in that conference, it gets you prepared. And when you get in the playoffs, like this Hall of Fame playoff coach over here to my right will tell you, it's all about matchups, and the matchup that they could get into. They don't have to play Mark Tree right off the bat if they get in the playoffs.
Exactly.
That's who you can stay away from. I think your dad used to always say you can win one too many. Sometimes
you can't have it.
Yeah, you can be in the wrong situation that way. But yeah, I think Mark Tree's really, really good. And I think the Cross County is going to be I've got them circled here as being one of those that you have to watch out for what's going to happen.
Desark is Desark. I mean, they know how to run the football, and they're physical, and they just, they're going to be there at the end.
Well, let's head down south here a little bit. I guess you'd call south to the 3-2A. Obviously, Junction City is on everybody's radar. They're loaded up here. A lot of people, they know how to find their way to Memorial Stadium. They've done that a few times in their life. You got Mineral Springs, which the team we fell in love with last year, Murfreesboro. Gurdon, Coach Jackson's done a great job. Spring Hill, Lafayette County, Dirks, and Foreman. Talk to us. Let's go with you, Coach Fimple, a little bit about this league. I mean, and then we'll come back with you, Thomas, and a little bit about Junction City, because that's the one you already said it, head and shoulders above everybody else. Coach Fimple, what are you seeing out of the 3-2A?
Well, that's the thing about Junction City. They returned, 7 starters on offense, 8 on defense, and it's Junction City for a reason. I mean, that's title town right there. The Dragons are back. Coach Carpenter had that great run for years, and now Devin Ball's in charge. And, it's one of those things. They've got some kids that moved in there that's going to help them. And once again, if you look at them, offensive line-wise, they're really, really, really good in the trenches. They're going to have skilled people. So I think they're definitely head and shoulders above everybody else. But you still got, that's a tough league too. You got Murfreesboro. They got Mineral Springs has got their quarterback.
Great defense in Murfreesboro and Mineral. Yeah. I mean, those guys can play defense.
If you look at last year, they were giving up. Murfreesboro was giving up 8. Mineral Springs was giving up 10,
which is the highest, the lowest in the state.
Yeah, and then you had the interception that caused the whole turn of the game last year. I mean, it was just like who had it last. So, it's an amazing league, especially down there. And, man, it's high school football at its best. I mean, you got small town USA just battling every night in that league. And, like I said, points are hard to come by. But I think there's so many skill players that Junction City's got that can be explosive in that situation.
Hey, getting that 1 seed, what you're talking about, got to go down there, boy. It means you're going to Louisiana, basically. And so, but go ahead.
Junction City, Devin Ball played for the 09 team. Yeah. So he's in the heyday, so he knows what to expect. The kids right now, they haven't been there. So that's the advantage for the rest of 2A. Like these guys haven't been the Junction City of the 2000s, but they have the ability to. They just, you see it, they play differently in the playoffs when you expect to be there, if that makes sense. But what he's doing, he's gotten some guys in there. I think he's restoring the Junction City of old.
I do. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and bring Coach Ball on from Junction City, our BSN guest, Coach Devin Ball. Welcome to the show, man.
Hey, it's an honor to be here with both of you gentlemen. What you're doing for the sport we all love it's a hats off situation. I'm proud to be here.
Well, we're excited about having you on. Well, let's just get it out here straight, man. We're going to get into your team a little bit. A lot of hype in Junction City, but everybody's used to it. I mean, the expectations have been there for a long time. Your preseason number 1 ranked in Hootens. We got you real high. Obviously, last year 2A we enjoyed watching 2A with EPC, Mark Tree, you guys, everybody's involved. Carlisle and you got those guys early. Talk to us a little bit. You got seven guys back on offense, 8 back on defense. Very physical team like Junction City. I mean, it inside now. Talk to us a little bit about your team, and then we'll get into your conference a little bit.
Absolutely. We'll start off with quarterback. I think that's the most important position in sports. And we've got Taylor Owens. He's transitioning from that slot receiver role for us, where he had over 30 catches, no drops. He's a 3.8 kid. He's another coach on the field for us, which is pivotal. This is year 2 for us in our system in all 3 phases: offense, defense, special teams, and having a kid that can do what we've asked of Taylor to take over this new role as the quarterback, getting us lined up with a new offensive approach, and us getting bigger back under center is huge. And we're proud of him for that. He's complemented by an excellent offensive line. We think we've got one of the better offensive fronts we've had in a while, from size to ability. And a 3-year starter, Tony Hodges, he'll be playing center for us. Got a lot of grit, can ID everything we need. We feel like we're going to get pressured a lot of exotic stuff with fronts, and he'll be able to get us situated and composed. Marcus Singleton, he'll be a senior. He was second in the 198-pound division in the state weight meet, and he will be able to handle any load. And he's the guy, I think we all know from dealing with high school football, that in the third quarter, that 6 foot, 198-pound sucker still getting low, driving underneath the chest. Guys are getting high, playing high on and all that good stuff up front. And he's going to take advantage of that, and we're going to get some guys moved. And to his right at that right tackle spot will be Jermaine Singleton, guy 6'4", 360 pounds. Wow. We love his ceiling. He'll be a junior this year as well. I've said it before. I think he's the best kept secret in Arkansas. And with his growth, he's also on that weightlifting team, and his leadership role is expanded with the loss of Jalen Ivey to UCA. We could not be happier with what he's doing for us. And then you get to that left guard spot. We've got Lamarion Robinson. He transferred in from El Dorado. He's never played football before in his life, but he's 6'4", 296 at the 2A level at Arkansas football, and we think we can get him rolling forward. So we're going to find a way to manufacture him, and playing him close right now as a junior. And Brady Britton, who's seasoned, who's been pushing, is starting at that role, and they've been battling it out. And within the coming days, one of them will ascend to that spot. So that's where our asterisk is. And then at left tackle, we got Mason Jeter. He's 6'4", 330, can move well, 21 ACT kid, gets it, does those things for us as far as handling that blind side and taking care of and mending the front. We've got a tight end room that we love. We've got about 4 or 5 of them over 6'2", 200 plus pounds. We want to get in some 2 tight sets, and guys like JB Banks, who also starts it in for us, is going to bring that. He's 6'2", 210 pounds. Jamarion Tolles, who returned to us from an ACL injury last year, he's slated to get that nod as well at tight end, and he's 6'3", 220-pound kid. And so we love what we can do with that, and being able to outgap people and put them in a compromise on lining up with our run game. Speaking of which, we've got Brady Penister. Brady's a phenomenal kid, unbelievable dedication. He is fixed to explode on the football world in Arkansas. He's 5'10", 200 pounds, and he runs a 4.5, man, and he's done it multiple times this summer. We pushed the heck out of our kids that want to strive for more and got them in those positions to where they're showing up to camps and performing. He's had a great one this summer. He paced us with over 500 yards total offense in that backfield. Had 10 scores, and we had 4 kids with at least 10 scores last year and rushed for 4,300 yards. And we're excited about him returning. And with our quarterback departing, a lot of his production was on the ground. So we feel good about shelling them totes to him. And then also a complimentary H-back hybrid guy in Damari and DeJuan Wesley. He'll be a senior. 6'1", 205-pound kid, light feet, can catch the ball, can block. And whenever we want to get Brady a spill back there, that'll be the second of our right-hand men is what we call him. We got 2 right-hand men to complement him. And DeJuan will give us that aspect, especially when it gets cooler, where we can get down there and ground and pound and get people wore out in the cold with big bodies. We know where that heads into the championship months. And we love what he brings to the table in that regard. And then lastly, as far as our receivers or our athletes running the ball, I really see an expanded role for Dominique Grimes. He's to me, we've had an expanded summer. We're lucky to be on the border, so we're able to trot down to Freedom Fields and Shreveport and get some work with Airline and those guys. And we're able to see a little sea bird, and we're able to get humble real quick. And we got away from that for a while here. And having time with Coach Carpenter and getting back to basics and that. I played for him, won a state title. So as a player, I knew or remember what it took to kind of get us groomed for a higher level of play. And to your point, Coach Williams, that expectation at Junction. But Dominique Grimes, he'll wear 3/4. That's usually our guy that goes back to that Marcus Godfrey era, Jacquees Nancy, and some others. We feel like he's the best offensive weapon on the field at all times. And that doesn't matter class, anywhere we're at, what we're doing. And I think there's a lot of other teams that can attest to it. He holds offers from UCA, UAPB. The kid's a 4.4 sprinter. He's put on 20 pounds since last year. He's paced us over 1,500 yards total offense. Over 14, 15 touchdowns. He'll play free safety as well, but we think we have the best player in Arkansas on our team, and that gives you a great advantage no matter what class you're in or what you're doing. We had a transfer into Colin Hampton, 6'2", 180 pounds. He's coming from Parker's Chapel. And this kid's got as good of a catch radius and natural ability, does not wear gloves, which makes him a unicorn to me, especially in this brand of football these days. And he's bought in. So that with the culmination of a kid like Zamondre Gray, who's going to be a sophomore, that was the best player on the team we had in junior high with 900 yards and 10 touchdowns. His first senior high game, he scored a kickoff return touchdown, and what he brings to the table as well. We really think our offense is poised to be better than it was last year, especially our identity with being able to get big on people and pound them out in the run game. Defensively, you want me to get in defense now, Coach, while we're on this? Defensively, we've got 2 ends returning to us that we think are all state caliber kids, and JB Banks and Dalton Baker. Both Dalton will be a junior. He's about 5'10", 198 pounds. And then JB Banks is 6'2", 200 pounds. And we think that they give us a distinct advantage over our other opponents. To me, I'm a D-line guy. I coached D-line at Camden for 6 years, was the DC for 2 before I got here. And so that's what I hang my hat on. I've got my defensive coordinator from El Dorado. He played hog ball up there with Bray and Byron Jones. And so we obviously place a premium on D-line play. And so with that, we feel great about those 2 right there and what they give us as far as being able to maintain the edge, the exotic things we can do in dropping them, stunting them. But more than anything, getting lined up too, maybe somebody rolling out in the 2 tight set or being able to squeeze and spill. And we all know how quick they can get you beat, and having 2 guys returning for that means is excellent for us. Jermaine Singleton and Mason Jeter will both be playing inside for us. We've talked about their size. We think that gives us a great advantage in a really run-heavy league. And we're going to keep our foot on the pedal with our linemen. We feel like we've got 7 to 8 kids that can play for us up front, and they're not lacking in size. We've just got to get them the mileage and everybody take care of their ends of the bargain so that we can be seasoned come playoff time. Our middle linebacker will be Brady Penister. We've talked about him. He paced us with about 99 tackles last year. I think he had 8 TFLs or so, multiple PBUs, but he was a sophomore. So going into his junior year with that level of play, the summer he's had, we feel like he's going to be a guy there for us. That'll be an eraser. DeJuan Wesley will complement him at the will linebacker spot, and that Sam Backer. Brennan Leo's transition from strong safety to that spot for us, and we feel like them 3 will be as good as that can be out there at any point. We had a DeCourier Clemens transfer in from Strong, Arkansas. He'll play strong safety. There's not a guy in the building that ain't heard his voice from the last 5 to 10 days he's been here, and he brings about as big a motor, and he has proven he's worthy of such. Many dogs bite or bark at about 5'8", 160, and it ain't much, but this sucker blows it up when he does. And so we're loving the aspect of his leadership and just that tenacity and grit. I mean, Coach, you've been down in this area, a strong Arkansas guy. It's good to have somebody with that type of grit and that. He's just got a prove it mentality. And, with the scope of the game these days, there's so many different personalities and stories coming in. But when you got a guy that'll hold his own, it really does speak a lot for the other guys and the respect factor. And it also creates an edge to our guys. So we think he gives us that with his play and the way that he brings it week in and week out. Jacourier Larry returns at corner for us, lengthy, 5'10", 150 pounds. He's put on some weight in the offseason. He'll be our premier corner with Noah or Nolan Dismuke. Jacourier Larry, his brother, and Colin Hampton, that receiver we talked about, also getting corner reps, and Dominique Grimes back there at the free safety spot. We feel like we've done an excellent job from the end of our season at Glen Rose to now, getting ourselves prepared and really being blessed with some excellent guys to be in the building.
Well, let's get into it. You got a lot of guys back, obviously. You got some transfers in. Those things happen nowadays in that part of it. And you talked about Coach Carpenter. You played for him in the tradition Junction City's had for years, and you've capitalized on getting into your league last year. I mean, you're looking at Mineral Springs, Murfreesboro, those guys. Gurdon, Coach Jackson does a great job over there. Dirk, some of those. Talk to us a little bit about your league and how difficult that league is. I mean, a lot of these guys made some playoff runs last year and things like that. That's some big ball games. And talk to us a little bit about your league, and then we'll get into early game you got with Carlisle, a little bit overall and statewide. So talk to us a little bit about your league.
Man, we love our schedule. I tell you, I look back when I played here, the league, our conference was ourselves, Bearden, Strong, Parker's Chapel, Norflet, that's now Nolan Boyd into Smackover, and then obviously Smackover, Dermott. So the games were a lot different as far as the level of play. Bearden was fantastic back then, and Strong gave you all you can handle. But as far as the schedule abroad, it was a little lackluster. There were games where it was just difficult to get up for, and that won't be the case this year. And I think that's huge for kids. Kids they want to be in that moment. They want the exhilaration of being in these things that they see as far as the hype and as far as being able to be in a competitive environment. And so we wanted to promote that. And we were blessed to roll into a conference where Mineral Springs ranked 4, 2, or 5 in most publications, and our phenomenal football team that Coach Hathcock's got rolling over there. Coach Cheshire, I've dealt with him when he was over at D Queen, and I was at Camden. He always does a great job. His kids are ranked 6th, I believe, in Hootens. Mm-hmm. And then also, obviously, like you said, Carlisle and stuff in the future, but having them non-conference early, prepping us for a vibe like a Murfreesboro, or taking that Fordyce and that scrimmage and getting us prepped for Mineral Springs, we think is huge for us, and it's going to prepare us for some tough games. Smackovers on our schedule. They're usually, like I said, a conference game. From last year when we were 3A and dealing with them and Prescott and Falk, and a lot of similarities in some of our opposition this year with Dirks and that road and that travel and that environment, and Spring Hill's coming in with us. Gurdon we're familiar with. Coach Jackson, like you said, does a great job. We saw them in team camp. I think they're going to be much improved and surprise some people. Mineral Springs, we saw them in team camp. As soon as the season ended, I got a hold of Coach Keener. We talked about ways we could get back at it because we liked what it brought out of our team to see people playing at that high of a level, coaching at that high level, and what that did for our program. And we were blessed with an opportunity to meet out at Gurdon for team camp in May. That was our spring game, essentially. And we got out there and saw them, Glen Rose, Mineral Springs, and we were able to compete at a high level with those guys, and we're missing a few of our dogs. And so to get out there and get that initial shock against premium grade conference opponents was something we really feel good about going into our actual schedule. And, Coach Adrian Ivory does a great job at Lafayette County, and all of these guys have really great programs that they're leading. And we're excited about our conference and what it can bring for us, especially going into our postseason hopes.
Well, you just nailed it. I mean, 2, 3 of you are ranked in the top 10 or whatever, that are just coming out of your conference. Big picture wise, obviously you understand how to get there, you've been around it. Besides being healthy, which that's what everybody talks about, obviously, but that's a big factor. What do you have to do to get to War Memorial Stadium at the end of the day? And that's where we all want to be anyway, but
that's right.
You've got to have a plan. So besides, staying healthy, what do you do? Continue to get better. I mean, just little things, or what's the landscape looking in your program getting back to War Memorial Stadium?
I think it's pivotal that we win this conference championship and we can maintain a home field advantage to the playoffs. I don't think there's and I hang that off of my time at Camden. We ended up going to Shiloh Christian my last year there. That environment, taking your butt up there, it's a whole nother world. It's tough to win at. There's little magics in that, man. You play a lot harder, I think, when you're in that environment and it gets down to them late moments into the season and you start thinking about Sally Sue or how warm that gym's going to be, or I'm tired of the sled, or Coach Ball, I'm done with him. You start getting in those emotions and you start losing them to attrition. If you can get them home field advantages, I think that places your performance at a premium. And so we're going to fight and claw with this prepared schedule to get us where we can win and compete for a conference championship and we can get that home field advantage. We feel good about our chances getting a War Memorial if we can host. We all know what kicks in when you're on the road. We felt it last year more than ever, going and playing Walnut Ridge in a battle and pulling that victory off and then turning around, getting back home and looking up. And you're going to be on your way to Glen Rose and playing in that environment and feeling the aspects of home field, having that extended time to prep, fighting on your own turf. That gave an edge, I felt like, to teams that already were better ball clubs at the time. And so we want to place a premium on getting that done. Maintaining our identity is going to be the key to me, which is running the football and stopping the run. We've got to run the football. I'm all about airing it out. We did a little too much last year. That's what happens when you're getting taxed in the fast that we were in them 4 losses. And when you're sporadic, if you can't run the football, you will be sporadic. We've all seen it a million times. And we've got too good of a front and the tight end bodies we have to not be able to get down there and win the TOP and grind people out and use our strengths. We're big, we're strong from that, back-to-back 3A state weightlifting championships, and we've got speed. So we're not going to put the ball in harm's way as much as we did last year. And if we can continue to stay with our foot on the pedal, pounding people out, we feel great about getting to December 6th.
Well, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, Coach, I'll get you off here, man. Hey, a lot of expectations. Like I said, we're going to be checking your work all year long, baby. Good. Coach Daryl Fimple is really high on you guys. He's got, I believe, y'all in his top small school 5, and we'll be checking your work. And I guarantee we're going to be talking to y'all when that Carlisle game comes around September 6th. That's going to be a big one.
Coach, y'all holler at us. We'll be ready to answer the call.
All righty. Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Appreciate you, gentlemen.
Man, Coach Ball, I mean, you see the excitement in the Junction City, the preseason number 1. Y'all have got them ranked number 1 overall. Daryl, you've got them.
We got them 2. We got them 2
now. Yeah. Okay. You're going to have them ranked really high,
too.
Yes.
And so I'm a believer.
You can see the excitement. Let's move on over a little Central and Eastern Arkansas, the old 4-2A here. The Carlisle Bisons. They're always there, baby. Coach Wilson's got them. They're always there. They're going to play defense. Talked to him a little bit the other day. We're going to have him on here in a few minutes, but he's very excited. Them and Hazen have kind of battled it out in that conference the last 2 years. And so, Thomas, let's look at it. You got Carlisle, England, Hazen, Bearden.
We're going to see how good Carlisle and Junction City are week 2.
Yeah, that's a big game.
And it's at Junction City travels down to Carlisle, which is it's a tough place to play anyway. And so the Carlisle's physical. They got a great crowd. That community really supports their kids. If you go to, buddy. I don't think if you hadn't been to games, you don't really know. It's a great atmosphere, and Junction City is that's going to be a great game. But I think Carlisle's is head and shoulders on that conference, but you got Hazen, who's equally, it's a rivalry game. Hazen's coming off a state championship 2 years ago. It's very good teams. England is up and coming. I think they can run the football really well. It should be a great conference.
I think so. Daryl, your breakdown, I talked to Coach Wilson. We're fixing to bring him on. Let's go ahead and do that because I want to listen to him talk about his defense a little bit because he's real big on defense. Let's go ahead and bring our BSN guest, from head coach of Carlisle, Coach Gary Wilson.
Coach, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Well, we're big Carlisle Bisons fans on this show. We follow you guys all the time, checking your work all the time. You were ranked number 2 according to Hootens magazine preseason. We've got you pretty high also in this 2A field. It's going to be very difficult. It was very exciting last year with a lot of good teams. Y'all were right there in the mix last year. Talk to me a little bit of recap of last year. That what do you got coming back, and then we'll get about your conference.
Yeah, man. Last year, we had a great season. Fell a little bit short there at the end. We're 19 seconds away from playing for a 2A state championship again, and that one's been a tough one to get over. It kind of fueled our off season because we felt like you got 4 teams. We felt like any team in the semis could have won the 2A state championship last year. We didn't do a few things well at EPC, and it cost us the game. And I'm sure EPC saying the same thing about the championship game. Play here, play there, and maybe they beat Bigelow. So. But we were really proud of our guys last year. We've got 2 all-state tackles that we're going to have to replace this year. But as far as skill guys, we returned pretty much everyone from our skill positions. A lot of speed, and we get it figured out up front. We think we've got a chance to really have a big year this year.
Well, you and Hazen pretty dominate that conference over the last few years. England looks like they're going to pop up. It's a difficult conference week in, week out. Talk to me a little bit. You got your non-conference, and we'll get into that just a little bit. I mean, I tell you what, looking at 2A, 3A, every coach that's got a shot, they've really, they've gone out and they've loaded up for non-conference, getting prepared. Talk to us a little bit about your conference, and we'll get into overall state. It's traditionally been a tough, a 2A power conference for years, and of course, y'all been in the mix. So talks about where you fall and what do you think the conference looks like this year?
Well, the first team I'd have to talk about would be Hazen. Coach Bosankin and his staff's they've done such a good job there the last, I don't know, it seems like probably 10 years, and they're 2 years removed from a state championship. Last year we thought, they're one of those teams where if a few things fall their way, they're back in Little Rock playing for a state championship again because, they were super talented offensively and defensively. So, And until I'm proven wrong, that's who I look at as, the big competition for the conference championship. I think everything probably runs through them until proven otherwise. I think you said it. England's got a lot coming back, and I think they feel really good about what they've got coming back. I know last year they kind of hit us in the mouth the first half when we played them. They had a really good running back. Played us really hard, and I know they'll do it again this year too. Poen comes into the conference, and they're always well coached, So I'm sure that they're gonna make the best out of whatever talent they have, and I think they'll be right there in the mix for when it comes to seeding and all that good stuff. And then Bearden's got a lot coming back. They improved quite a bit last year too. So that's another team that I think will be right there in the mix for everything.
Well, let's get in overall state-wise. Let's just get out there. September the 6th. Y'all are hooking up 1 and 2. We ain't messing around. We're getting this thing out early. But Junction City's coming to Carlisle. Y'all played them last year. Why don't we schedule that game? Is just to see where we're at, or because you're gonna probably you got a good chance seeing those guys down the road also. Talk to me about the mindset of scheduling that game. I'm sure y'all have a hard time getting games also.
Well, it's kind of funny how that one came about. I just gotten hired. Coach Ball had just gotten hired at Junction. We had a game for week 1. A non-con. We were in a 2-year agreement with a school that dropped football after we played them the first year.
Wow.
So I think they were kind of in the same situation, and we'd made a lot of phone calls, and we hadn't found one yet. And he called me one day and was like, "Hey, I think it'd be really, really good idea, really cool if we get these 2, traditional teams together." And so we did. At that time, we thought we'd be pretty good. We didn't know. We knew they wouldn't be bad, but we didn't know 2 years down the road we're looking at number 1 versus number 2 potentially in week 1. So that's kind of how that one came about. But that's gonna be a tough one, man. They're loaded.
They always are. They're a powerhouse down there. I coached down there for 8 years. I know all about those guys.
Yeah.
They were rolling back then also. But let's look at overall. You got Conway Christian's got a great quarterback coming into the mix. Bigelow just coming off the state championship. Martree's loaded up over there. Talked to Van Pascal going over to Cross County and that part of it. And so overall, they're the EPC. I know lost a lot of people, but they still got players also. A lot of good teams there. besides staying healthy, what do you do? What do you have to do to get to Memorial State?
We just got to get it all together up front. I'm sure there are a lot of people that tell you that. We've got our skill guys. We feel great about them. We got a couple starters back up front. We got a kid that played a lot of reps for us last year. We're going to depend on a couple sophomores at a couple other spots, and they're talented. But it's a jump moving from high school or junior high to high school. So I think if we get it right up front's the big key there. That, and like you said, staying healthy.
But no doubt, and at the end of the day, it is when you get in December, late November, you done long enough to understand those guys up front make a difference, because that gets a little colder, that ball gets a little wetter, and it gets a little harder that time of year. Well, Coach, man, I appreciate you coming on. We're we're going to be watching you, checking your work, and obviously we're going to feature that September 6th game. That's going to be a huge game throughout the state of Arkansas, and be a lot of eyes on that game. And good luck to you, and we'll have you on during the season.
Hey, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me on.
Daryl, let's get into this conference. I mean, we just talked to Coach Wilson, likes his defense. It's like Thomas talked about. They got an early date with Junction City. We'll kind of find out where they're at a little bit, but Hazen's always been dominant. Talk to us a little bit about this conference, and we're going to get into the overall outlook of 2A.
Well, I think Carlisle offensively is going to be a little different. I think they're talking up this, they have a big-time baseball player that's playing quarterback this year that can spin it a little bit. And then you look back and see what their stats were from last year. They have two of their leading wide receivers back. So is Carlisle going to put a little wrinkle in here and mix some things up offensively, make them a little bit more explosive? They got a running back. They're going to run the football. And defensively, I mean, you're looking at 6 kids back, returning starters, 6 on each side of the ball. They're amazing. They know how to win, too. It's small town USA. Still playing on grass, by the way.
Yeah, well,
we got to like football on grass.
Let me make a note here. I was the first kindergarten class at Conway. At Carlisle.
Started it all.
Started it all. It all started with my class, 1980. The class of 92, we already started with it. That right there started the whole thing, started the tradition. But
Hey, Carlo?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. My dad coached there for 3 years. But I followed those guys, and I really do. I think they can make a run big time.
Hey, that league's, you got
It's
England,
tough.
you got Hazen,
Yeah.
you got them. That's a battle. Like you said, Carlisle stepping out of the conference and playing Junction City. That's hats off both of those guys, seeing where they're at early. So you got a challenge there coming that way. So I think it only makes them better in the playoffs. And who wants to go to Carlisle, the first round of the playoffs? That's not a good place to be. Once again.
What in Mineral Springs? It was Mineral Springs 2 years ago. They were undefeated. It was Hathcock's first year, and they went 0-10 the year before. Then they make the first round of the playoffs. They were like, maybe they won 9 games or something.
Yeah.
They lose Ed Carlisle, who was 1-10 the year before,
right.
and then makes the state championship. I mean, it was just
and that's
first round game at Carlisle is tough.
Yeah, there's a reason why you have 25 years of winning tradition.
Exactly.
Something happened.
Well, let's do this. Let's get into the overall aspect of this. I mean, we just went through, broke down conferences. This was a classification last year that was, down to the wire each week. Thomas, who do y'all like? We'll talk to Daryl, and then Mouth, we're going to come to you. Talk to us about 4 or 5 teams you think. You just mentioned Junction City. You think's head and shoulders above everybody else, but who's somebody else that can push and get in there?
So Junction City is I think has the ability, and if they do what they're supposed to do, they go to the state championship. Mark Tree is equally as loaded, and putting it all together like they did last year, because they lost to Bigelow, and it was a close game in the semifinals, and then Bigelow wins the state championship. Mineral Springs and Murfreesboro, they're right there too. Just whoever they match up with, we'll see in the playoffs. I think if they get a good matchup, they'll be okay. And Conway Christian, I really like, just because I saw Jaron Thomas play in person, and they didn't play well at all against Bigelow, and it was a close game. But you could tell, this guy's legit, and he's a game changer.
No doubt. Mouth, what do you? You follow this quite a bit too. So what do you think about this 2A classification?
I think it's going to be a fascinating season with those 4 teams that you mentioned. But when it gets right down to it, the title's still got to go through Junction City.
Yeah.
And till the champion's knocked off, they're still the champion.
Yeah. They've been champion for a while, even though, Bigelow made a long run last year with them. But you're on Junction City bandwagon through this thing too.
I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna ride Junction City.
Riding the Dragons. All right, talk to us, Coach Fimple. I mean,
Well, Conway Christian, like you said, you got two quarterbacks there. You know, the Thomas kid's phenomenal. It's a bloodline. You know, his mom was a heck of an athlete. I can tell you that for sure. Flipping legend. But I'm telling you right now, that's probably, I think it's most, just studying this from afar, I think this might be the most, I guess you could say, you could throw it in a hat, you could have a lot of winners in Class 2A. You really could. I mean, somebody gets hot at the right time, injuries occur, of course, that's going to hurt some people. You don't want to see that happen. But, man, I think, I mean, you got Junction City that's explosive. Mark Tree's explosive. You got Murfreesboro and Mineral Springs that play defense like nobody's business, like their hair's on fire. So, I mean, you've got you know, it could be a turnover here, you know, a dropped snap. It could be anything that changes the game, because I think that there's a lot of teams that are really, really close to each other.
And in 2A, if you get injured, if you have one injury,
we got both ways.
well, you got both
I mean,
ways.
you know what I like to hear, though, in Class 2A? This is what I like. This is the best stat that you guys do in your book right here. 5'7", 155 center. That's what I'm talking about.
Hey, the flies.
That guy's, and he doubles over at nose guard. Plays nose guard the next time now. That's what you got to like.
But they fly off the ball.
Yes.
And the part people don't talk, and he's on the punt team, and he's on the kickoff team.
And the coach knows it.
Yeah.
Hey, 3-year Letterman All-State player, 5'7", 155. This guy's a snapping machine. That's what 2A football's about right there. But you look at Junction City's a little different. Their offensive line's gargantuan. I mean, they are some big kids up front there. So, you know, it's just the balance of the powers that be, I guess.
Well, and the longer that we talk about this, and you've really focused in on everybody's offense and defensive line.
Oh, man, that's where it's run. Just listen to Nick. What does Coach Saban used to say all the time? It's one right there. There's a difference in SEC football and anybody else. I mean, you look at high school football, you know, you got to win up front. I mean, you can be a 4'9" guy back there throwing the bubble to him if he's got a crease. He looks really, really fast.
We thought about averaging all the height and weights of the lines and comparing them like this, you know, then comparing them to 2A, 7A, you know, just to see. And something we're going to do eventually.
Yeah, there's a truckload of people that can move bodies. But I love the guys that are just leverage guys. I mean, that guy, he's a 3-year leverage guy at center. That's what I'm talking about. 5'7", playing angles, 155 wet. Yeah, had a great season in the weight room. Yes. Really? I mean, I bet he did. Yeah, that's awesome. I love them dudes.
Well, it looks like no doubt we're going to move on to 3A, but it looks like no doubt 2A. You know, Junction City's there. Everybody's a favorite, but
the other thing is I don't think you ever sleep on EPC. In this
EPC.
I mean, you got another Gaines, boy.
You
got another Gaines.
You got another Gaines.
And we will ride them till the end. We will ride them till
I watched Gaines.
The end, yes.
Gaines carried like 80 times against Mark Tree in the week 10.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just walking off like this, and then he comes back. He gets hit right before the end of regulation, and I thought he was going to die. I mean, they're carrying him off. The second play of overtime, he runs in, and everyone's like, it was like the return of Jesus. Like, yes, and he scores, and then just walks over.
Yeah, that's
good stuff. Well, obviously 2A. Let's recap this. A lot of Junction City, but there's a lot of contenders there, and it's going to be. And there's a lot of great games. You know, you're talking about Carlisle, Junction City early on. Early in the season, so we'll be looking at. Let's move on to 3A, and this one here. Man, I think there's got a little revenge factor here with the old Prescott Curlywoods. We're going to get into that, Coach Glass.
Big fan of the Curlywoods, man.
They felt like,
I can guarantee you we sold every Hootens book in Prescott.
No, there's no doubt.
Prescott bought every one of them. They're asking for another truckload.
I was there yesterday talking to them.
Yeah. Yes, they are all on board. They might even be selling replica rings down there right now because they're on a mission.
They are on a mission,
and they're excited.
Yeah,
they're excited.
And talking to Coach Glass a little bit, and he ain't gonna make excuses. Last year. Kind of got a little tough call a little bit there on
tough
the
call.
I
just say we got cheated. I was linked up on that game. And we got cheated.
He's upset about it.
God bless America. We're in the year 2024 and we're still using chains. Can we get something technology-wise?
The crazy
part
about that is that once I saw a spot and then it looked like it was short. I start walking down the other way and then I look up and then I missed the next play because they were on offense. I'm sitting there like, what in the world?
Yeah, he wasn't real fired up.
But my favorite thing about Glass is after he calmed down and they took the knee, he came and shook Doc Crowley's hand.
Oh, yeah.
And you just congratulate him.
Class act. That have anything to do with a smile, though. But anyway.
He had some regret. He was probably looking for a striped shirt.
Exactly. Well, let's get into this. Let's start with the 1-3A, which I think is a very interesting. Let's just put it out there. Last year, Boonville was about as dominant a football team. And they have been a dominant football program for years. Doc's done a great job. Golf Kid ran over everybody. They got some guys back. You've got them ranked really high. Hootens does. We like them. The coaches like them. Got them ranked number one, preseason number one in their conference. But Ricky May down there at Charleston, Coach Overton's really turned that. We're going to have him on for an interview here in just a second. But Mansfield, they made a run also. The Vaca with a new coach. West Fork's kind of moving back down there a little bit. Hackett.
Hey, Charleston now.
That's what I'm saying. Don't
forget about Charleston.
Charleston
was didn't have the best team last year, and I got to see them play. I mean, they weren't the normal Charleston, and they were right there with Boonville at Charleston. And I'm telling you, it was just a couple plays that changed the game. Charleston is going to be very, very good. Whit Overton's got a great defense coming back. Boonville, they lost a lot, but they're still Boonville.
I mean, they just do it, and I'll say something about it, but I've watched games for 100 years. It don't matter who the head coach is. They execute as well as anybody there is. I mean, they've ran the same offense stuff for years, and I know they've added wrinkles here or there, but it's like those guys just know it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And when they scheduled Harding Academy, it's like, hey, that they're going to go across the street and then get the scout team by the defending national champions. So to prep for that, because they run the same offense. Yeah. They hung with Harding Academy. They lost by 8 points to Camden Fairview. If you saw Camden Fairview last year, beast. Coach Vaughn. They aren't messing around.
It's our guy. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and bring on our Lindsey guest of the week, Coach Overton from Mansfield, head coach at Mansfield. Coach Overton.
Let's go. Hey, let's recap last year just a little bit. I mean, y'all could really I wouldn't say come out of nowhere. People talked about you a little bit preseason, but you made a long playoff run. Your kids kind of understand it right now. You're in a tough league. Let's do got 8 returning starters on offense and defense. Yep. Let's just real quickly kind of talk about your team a little bit and what the future holds to you, and then we'll get in your conference and overall in the state.
All right, sounds good. Well, just kind of recapping last year, this was my first year at Mansfield.
Yeah.
So, didn't really know
Coach of the year too. You were Coach of the year last year, man. Good gracious alive, man.
That was a cool deal. Being up there with those guys, of course, I work with Doc and then Coach Black, obviously a legend in the state. They've got it rolling at Prescott. And just to be on the stage with those guys was an honor enough to me. And then when they said my name, I still feel unworthy. But it's a testament to our kids, really. I mean, we didn't have, we only had 25 last year. We'll have 22, 23 this year. But we got some tough kids, some kids who are locked in, we've gotten a lot better in the weight room in this off season. And so that was the thing that was encouraging last year is, I got here in July pretty much.
Yeah.
Just I knew as soon as we got there, we had to go into the weight room, and we lifted almost like an off season all the way up until we started conference play. Because I knew we were behind so much strength wise. But the kids bought in, it's a little bit, and you've been around, it's tough to get those kids buy in when you change everything they've ever done. And not that we just they weren't doing stuff well before, but just my personality and the way I wanted to do things was a kind of a shock to some of those guys. But once we started winning and we started, feeling good about ourselves, they really bought in. And it's kind of cool. I don't know if I've ever even told this story to many people, but we were sitting in the locker room after we'd lost to Boonville, and Boonville kicked our butts. And one of our leaders, Daniel Barton, was our best running back, best defensive back, just kind of our do-it-all guy. He sat there and he said, "We're going to be in the semifinals, Coach. We believe in you, and I believe in this team." And I'm like, "Dang right, son, we are." And lo and behold, we were there. And so, just a testament to those kids and the way that they bought in and trusted me and how hard they worked and kept getting better and better and better as the year went on.
Talk to us a little bit about your conference. You got Boonville in there, defending state champions. Just rolled through everybody last year. Ricky May and Charleston, they've been a powerhouse, obviously. Y'all right there in the mix with everybody, but you're sitting there looking at your league, Lavaca, looking at new coach West Fork, Hackett, Greenland, Cedarville. Spencer does a good job over there. Talk to us a little bit about where y'all fit in your league and how tough your league is.
Well, first off, I have the utmost respect for Coach Crowley and Coach May over there at those guys, and worked with Coach May at Boonville for a year. Obviously, with my 7 years at Boonville, I worked with Coach Crowley pretty closely. And so those guys are good friends of mine as well. So, there's not a whole lot of secrets between us. We run the same style of stuff, offensively, defensively. So really it's just who can be the toughest, who's the most physical, those kind of intangible things. But those guys obviously have it going, have it rolling. And we just want to be in the conversation with those guys. And no disrespect to anybody else in our league. But we want to be considered one of the top dogs, not only in the state, but in our conference as well. And we've yet to achieve that. Even though we made a run in the playoffs, we still feel like we have unfinished business in our conference. And Mansfield's only won one conference championship ever in its history. And so that'd be a really special deal for our kids and for our community to be in the position to win one of those things. And it's going to come down to, it could be one of those deals where it could be a 3-way tie situation. You never know. You play the right team on the right night. And that's the same thing with any of those other teams. Lavaca is got a lot of skill guys. They are really explosive. They could come up and beat anybody on any night. Same thing with Hackett. Hackett's moved their best receiver to quarterback. He's dynamic. He can take over a game. West Fork is humongous. They are physical and do things the right way. So we know we got to take it one game at a time. We got to be locked in, and we can't take any days off because, we got to be prepared to win those big games, and then we can't take anybody lightly.
Well, you do. And then you start looking in overall in the state. I mean, you start looking at things, Prescott's got a lot of people coming back. They got beat in the finals last year. Of course, Boonville, Rivercrest dropping, played for a 4A state champ dropping. Robert Hook's rolling into Osceola. Looks like he's stacked up over there a little bit. I mean, Newport, got one of the better players moved in there a couple of weeks ago. You've made a run. Your kids understand the part of, how hard it is to do it and how long it is to play. Talk to us a little bit where you feel like y'all fall amongst, you stay healthy, how you feel amongst the state.
Well, you hit on the big thing right there is going to be how healthy we can stay, because we are not very deep. I mean, we feel like we have 13 to 15 guys who can really play, but then, it gets thin after that. So we've upgraded our non-conference schedule. We're playing some tougher teams. We played Bismarck, who beat Charleston last year in the playoffs, lost to Prescott the round before us. We saw them in a 7-on-7. They got some athletes, man. So we're going to be tested early. We play Lamar, and then, of course, rival Waldron. We're going to get their best shot. So that's what I wanted to do when we redid the schedule and stuff, was test ourselves early. That way we could figure out who we are, what we can do, because it is a long grind, but we want to make sure that we have our pieces in place, kids where we need to be, because it's going to be very important to win that conference championship, to be a 1 seed, to get a favorable matchup, because we did it last year. We don't want to be traveling to Hoxie and to Salem and all those places. We want to have some playoff games here at home. And that's really what the draw is the draw, and we'll feel like we're prepared based on who we play in conference and our non-conference schedule to make a run, whether we are a 1 seed or a 3 seed. We're going to be battle tested and ready to play. those big dogs in the state. And that's one thing that we talked about even today is like, we're going to respect every opponent, but we're not going to be afraid of anybody. And we'll roll out there with our 22 dudes. I mean, you don't play 11, and we feel like our 11 are stacked up against anybody in the state. We got our kids have a lot of confidence in ourselves too.
Well, and that's a big deal. I mean, it's, you making that run last year, they understand it, and you'll be in the mix. Well, Coach, we'll get you off here, man. Appreciate you coming on. There's a guy that's moved over there, former Tiger over there, Bill Elmo, Hall of Famer. We got to get this guy in the Mansfield Hall of Fame some way, man. I don't know what the holdup is over here.
Well, that's above my pay grade at this point.
I understand that. Yeah.
Coach Elmore came by and talked to me the other day. I appreciate. He's what a resource to have. I mean, right next door to me, and so I'm looking forward to kind of picking his brain some more. And you guys are. I've been going to the clinic for 11 years now, and just to you guys even wanting to talk to me is a cool deal, because I mean, that's like, why would anybody want to talk to me? But I appreciate you guys having me on, and we're looking forward to Tigers doing some special things this year.
Well, good luck to you, Coach. We'll have you on during the year. Good luck to you.
Oh, anytime. Awesome. That'd be great.
All right. See you later, Coach.
Thanks, sir. Bye-bye.
Uh-huh.
Well, Coach does feel good about his defense. He feels like the program's really come a long ways. Daryl, go ahead and finish that the 1-3A up. You like Booneville, Charleston. You got Mansfield there.
Man, top heavy.
Top heavy.
You hate to be Lavaca, because you're sitting there at fourth going, wow.
Yeah.
Man, this is a heck of a league to be in. Once again, you got to like Mansfield with the returning starters 8-8 on both sides of the ball. Charleston's got 5-5. The quarterback got hurt last year and played right with Booneville. He's back. They got a good offensive line, but man, Booneville just keeps plugging people in. The golf kid goes to Harding. Man, that was an easy recruit for this boy, wasn't it? Hey, watch this. Let's see your same offense here, fella. Tailor that around your recruiting spiel. But they got a senior quarterback back, Jace Washburn. He's been all over the place, plays in the secondary every once in a while.
Had a huge pick in the state championship last year.
He did. And he's one of those guys that have been there, and I think that's where Booneville is. Booneville. Those kids have been doing the same thing probably since the 4th, 5th grade. And Doc's just down there picking them out. I need you to be the fullback and when you get up here. So they're just plugging it in. Mansfield is the one that is going to be one that have to watch, because the Burton boys, they got the backfield set up there. Stroser's back at quarterback. They're really, really good on the offensive side. They scored a heck of a lot of points last year. They were rolling along there. We were jumping on the wagon there.
Oh, yeah, we jumped it.
And then they got to Prescott. It was a Prescott.
Semis.
I mean, what he did last year was
amazing.
His first job.
And they've done a great job over there.
And here's the thing about Mansfield now is that you've tasted all that success. Now's the next step. Are you ready to take the next step? I think that's what he's kind of be preaching, and what steps he's got to take. I mean, he's got Charleston and Booneville in his own league. To be the man, you must be the man. And that's exactly what Mansfield.
But he was coaching at Booneville 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's very familiar and knows.
Well, I'm sure he stole some secrets there. There's no doubt about that. Every good one does. So there's no doubt about that. But that's going to be a heck of a league. Every week, that's
side story is Coach May at Charleston. His wife is the cheerleading coach at Booneville.
Wow.
Yes, and so and he lives in Booneville. So I went at the Booneville Charleston game. You can see her on the other side. I asked her who she's rooting for. Obviously she's.
Well, she knows she pays the bills, but let's just got to throw it out there.
No. She's got to be rooting for Coach May.
Yeah. No doubt. It's a very interesting league. I'm very interested, but you hit it. I think it's real top heavy. No, it is. Let's go up to the 2-3A, Salem. Boy, they jumped. Salem jumped out last year. Coach Watson did a great job. I tell you, a team in this league, and I'm gonna keep with you, Thomas, a little bit. I saw in 7-on-7 this summer was Mayflower. Got some players, and I like their Coach Emerson does a great job, and really like what they're doing. You got DJ Mars there at Quitman, Atkins, Mountain View, Yellville, and Episcopal. Talk to us a little bit, Thomas, about this league, and can they make a push a little bit in the playoffs?
You know, I think Salem has the ability to. Mayflower has the athletes. They're big. They can run the football. Mountain View is moving from 8-man up.
Yeah.
And so they had a good offense. They were the 8-man state champions, the unsanctioned. This is a tough league, though. They've just got a lot of athletes up there, especially in Salem. And Quitman has got some guys coming from Bigelow and from other places. DJ Mars is doing an awesome job. I think
he's done a great job with facilities over there, man.
I mean, and the track team. I mean, but I think he's building something there. But I think Salem is the team that really can make a run. You'll see it week 2. I think is when they play Prescott at Hendrix College on like a Thursday. It's gonna be a great game.
Was Daryl?
Well, Salem's going to have to lean on their defense because their offense, they lost so much last year on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, hey, we were on them guys all year long,
yes,
too.
we were.
Even when the grass was dead. Remember the playoffs? The grass died on us. We were out there running around in dirt. Yes. It was crazy. But you got to like where they're at. They kind of been there the whole 9 yards. Quitman, though, has the returning quarterback. You know how I like quarterbacks there. Salem's rushing is back. They got Caden Brinks back, who went over almost 1,200 yards last year running the football for Salem.
He's splitting time, too. So
yes,
I think he's going to be...
There was like a 3-headed monster last year in Salem, but it didn't stop any of them from racking up yards. It's kind of crazy how that goes. But, yeah, you got to like how they're stepping out, playing the Curly Wolves, see where they're at early. Coach is probably going to struggle a little bit early because he loses about, 5,000 career yards rushing when he lost Romaine last year. So, Salem up front looks pretty solid, going to be young there. That's the other big thing. Mayflower, though, does have a bunch of skilled guys.
They do. And I like Coach. They've done a good job. I mean, like I said, I know.
They're playing Bigelow right there the second week.
Yeah. And they pushed Arkadelphia last year in the playoffs. And it was a close game. I mean, Arkadelphia pulled away late, but it was they gave them all they wanted.
No doubt. Well, let's move on to the 3-3A. Out of the whole freaking deal here, the whole book, this is the one I think's the craziest conference just over coaching changes, player movement, whatever you want to talk to. But you got some great football coaches in this 3-3A. And Thompson, I'm gonna let you hit on this first. Y'all got the coaches got Walnut Ridge at the top. You got Rivercrest, who's coming off a
coming down.
Buddha's back, baby.
Yeah, coming down, and we'll get to that a little bit. Newport just gets one of the best players in the state just a week ago. Hoxie, Tom Sears has dominated that league. And then our boy, Coach Hooks, who we love, Coach Hooks, has moved to West Memphis and apparently has got every kid almost in Mississippi County playing over there.
He does.
At Osceola right now, Manila and Harrisburg and Piggott. But the coaches in this league, and then you got Walnut Ridge, and Coach Sears has dominated Rivercrest. Thomas hit on this, and Daryl, we're going to talk to you a little bit about this.
Well, Walnut Ridge returns a lot of guys.
Yes, they do.
They're big and physical. They're well coached. Coach Blake does a good job. Rivercrest moves down from 4A.
Yeah, state
after
finals.
the state finalists, where they pushed Harding Academy to the very end. They had the ball driving to tie the game. So then you got Newport, who I'd seen the first game last year. They are absolutely loaded. I absolutely love this guy named Tyler Ridley. He's a D lineman, one of my favorite. He was a scholar athlete for us. Awesome kid. And then Newport did get the running back from BB, but they lost Amari Wren, who had 1,600 yards receiving. He's going to Greenwood now. So
Shocker.
That's going to be a tough travel every day, I guess. But
that route, that bus route.
Yes, that bus route's going to be tough. Then you get Osceola, who I saw him play last year, and they had a ton of talent. Now you get Coach Hooks, who's been there before, won there before, and he's getting guys from Rivercrest and other schools. This is going to be a loaded conference.
It is, and it just got loaded overnight.
It's unbelievable. There's going to be a good team that doesn't make the playoffs.
Exactly. Daryl, look at the coaches in this deal, man. It's a tough one. Over in the God's country, man.
Rivercrest.
Yeah.
The Colts. We're big on the bandwagon. You know that, right? Hey, we've got 5-5 on both sides coming back, and like I said, we had no quitting this last year playing against Harding, University Academy and whatever that was, which had to bump up because of their superiority, I guess, and they got. We'll talk about them later, but I think Rivercrest, once again, they've been there. They're on the edge of things. They've got returning starters back. I know it's a tough conference. Everything's leagued up again. But, man, once again, tradition does not graduate, baby. It does not graduate. It just stays around there. And once the Colts are going, the Colts are going. Big supporter of them. I think Walnut Ridge, like you said, they've got so many starters back. They got 9 on defense that are coming back, which is a good thing to have. But they're also coming off an 8-4 record. Sometimes return starters might not be the key. Might have to have some fresh legs in there. That junior high program, we were 11-0. Billy comes out there and takes a spot.
Little dab here and there.
It's a roll of the dice, that's for sure. But man, what a league! And like you said, coaches, golly, this might be like the statue league. Everybody's going to have a statue of the coach when they leave. I mean, it's an amazing league that you're in right there. But like I said, I like the Colts. I know everybody else likes Walnut Ridge. And man, heck, they're good and big up front. But, man, I like the Rivercrest.
Don't be surprised for Osceola.
And I hate to I think Osceola's going to.
Don't be surprised.
And we've been around when they've been. It's the Osceola Invitational. It's like, who's going to play them? It's back when
when Coach
Dollar
was the
same
coach.
way back.
Was it Adams? It was Jonathan Adams.
Oh yes, yeah. He ran for like 17,000 yards. Yeah.
Well, Mal, talk to me. I mean, Coach Hook's going over that deal. And
let me tell you what. Robert Hooks, he's already been to the state championship game with Osceola 3 years ago, 4 years.
The guy was 36-7.
And he's a heck of a coach. Did a good job at West Memphis. Came back home to Osceola. They'll be ready to rock and roll with Osceola about like Clinton Gore age,
Clinton Gore.
When he had some, they had some hellacious players come through there when Clinton Gore was the coach.
I called Hooks and asked her free him information for his phone if he's getting any of these guys. I need to know.
Well, let's move on here. You got 4-3A. You got Glen Rose. Coach Keener down there's done a great job. They had a great run last year. Perryville, okay? Let's talk Jessieville. Thomas Paris, talk to me a little bit about this league here. I mean, is it Glen Rose kind of down there where it's going to be the same thing, top heavy here, or what's our competition?
Glen Rose is always going to be the top of this conference. I mean, they're going to be up there at the top, but Perryville returns a lot of guys.
I saw that.
And I really like their coach, Fairbanks. He's done a great job. And they've got a quarterback and defensive back, Connor Firth, who led he maybe in the top in the country in interceptions. He had like 11 last year. And great kid. Jessieville's going to be right up there making the playoffs. But I think Glen Rose is always going to be there.
Well, let's go ahead and do this before we jump to the 7-3A. Let's go ahead and bring on our Lindsey guest of the week and Coach Glass, the head coach at Prescott. Coach, great year last year. You get to the finals. I know I talked to you off the air on the phone, just checking on you. Y'all get to the finals. Y'all have a great run last year, right there with a great Booneville team, one of the best Booneville teams that I think they've had in a long time. You're one play away, man. Just one play away. Talk to us. You lost some guys. What your team looks like this year a little bit. A lot of expectations, but there's expectations on them Curly Wolves every year. Talk to us a little bit about recap last year and your team this year.
Yeah. Well, last year we had an outstanding defensive front. I don't know if you got to see much of those guys, but we had, a lot of times we've got the quickness, but we're not very big. And, they wasn't real heavy, but we had a 6'5", 210-pounder. Of course, Patrick was our only two-way starter, which he ended up not able to play defense in the championship game. He pulled his calf muscle right off the bat, ended up just playing offense. But, he was a 6'4", guy, about 250. And then we lost the Jamarion Burton. He was a 6'3", 220-pounder that could go. He broke our sack record here, which I'll be honest, I didn't know if it would ever be broken.
Straight dude.
He was an animal. And then Marshawn Rafter, he was outstanding on that other end. He was a 6'1", 250-pounder. So we had some size and they could play. And, we lost Talon Smith, one of the best outside backers we've ever produced. We produced some good ones. He's definitely mentioned in with the greats. Him and Rafter, one of the most famous plays in Curly Wolf history was last year, 1.5-yard line. We had to stop Fordyce for the 2-pointer in the second round of the playoffs, or none of that ever happens in the finals. And they stuffed it. So, that kind of puts their name in the history books where people remember, I remember that defensive play. But we got to replace those guys on the back end. We're about as good as we've been, experience and talent-wise. Linebacker-wise, we did lose another one, Tayshawn Smith, but he got injured right off the bat at Boonville. The kid that played for him, Cliff Davis, is back, and Cliff had 9 tackles in that game, 8 solos. So he was tackling a couple of real good backs, with Boonville. And, he's going to be a good one for us. Jaden Pirtle's back at the Mike spot. He shared it with what's going to be our tailback this year, KJ Page. And then that other outside backer, this may be the new best prospect we've had at linebacker, Mario Brownlee. Remember that name. He's a sophomore. He's a 200-pounder. He's strong as an ox. His first cousin, Jacoby Nolan, was a freshman starter for OBU championship team straight out of high school. He played there 2 years, and then now he's got a great job and just making money. But he was a 2-year player at OBU straight out of high school. And this kid, he reminds me of him big time. We got his brother moved in from Arkadelphia, Michael Brownlee, out at the one corner position where we were going to be a little bit, not so much experience. And he stepped right in there. He's a 6'3", 175-pounder. Man, we feel really good about that back end. And then the defensive line, that's going to be the question mark. We've got to replace them. We've got about 3 seniors, a junior that are really doing well there. And then I've got 2 sophomores that are big and fast and their bodies are ready for senior high football. So, we feel like we're going to be able to get them replaced. May not be as dominant, but hopefully switching over to the offensive side, we're going to be a little better offensively than we were last year. We only averaged, I think, 38 points a game. I know that's normally good, but for us, that's not one of our better offensive teams. So we feel like we could be a little better on that side. A lot of offensive linemen back, some experience. Quarterback, Dakari Prater, wide receiver, Dwayne White. Those 2 are big-time college guys. Prater's already committed to Tulsa. And I think Dwayne, well, I don't want to spoil it, but I'll say OBU's on him hard. I'll leave it at that. But, we've got Spencer Hubbard back out there to slot. Like I said, KJ Page at tailback, along with Taekwon Box. Got a kid that came over from Hope, Jamarion Month. It's going to be a really good little slot for us. And we feel good about those offensive skill guys, and then we feel good about us up front as well.
Well, let's get into your league a little bit. Big surprise last year, Bismarck. Probably wasn't to you because you've probably watched your junior highs, not a true powerhouse in the Arkansas they have been. Boom, they're sitting there right in the thick of things last year. They got a lot of returners. A lot of people are talking about those guys. Talk a little bit about your league. Smackover apparently got a new quarterback coming in from El Dorado. Center point. Y'all have dominated this league pretty good, but this league's getting better. Yeah. And talk to us a little bit about the league.
I tell you what, Bismarck, Coach Keithley over there does an outstanding job. His defensive coordinator is Cameron Brown. He's a Prescott kid, and he's went up there and really helped get that thing going. And those guys do good. They work with us more in the summer than any other team. We play 7-on-7 league with them. They come to all our team camps, both junior high and senior high, and we see a lot of them. And I'm gonna just be honest with you. He's one of those guys that he don't dodge smoke. That's the only way to stay it. And Coach Keithley is looking for that smoke all the time. And, he played us in the non-conference last couple of years when they wasn't in our conference. He just, he wants to get better. I think they got 10-7 back. Yeah. They're going to be very good. That game is week 8, and it's going to be a tough one. Camden Harmony Grove OC. They're going to be real stout on the defensive side. They lost some weapons on offense, but their defense, we play them in the JV every year. They played really good defense on Monday nights last year. Like you said, Smackover, they've got I think, was he All-State last year at El Dorado?
Yeah, he's a really good, big time quarterback coming out. Coach Harrison goes in there and heard he transferred over, which, I mean, he's a difference maker, obviously.
Yeah, oh, no doubt. I mean, he's going to turn them. They've got guys around him too. They hadn't been kind of what they normally are the last couple of years, but let me tell you, that could happen any year. I mean, Smackover could go from not very good to real good any year. I mean, they just have that kind of talent down there. And you get a new quarterback that can throw that thing around and get it to those guys. That could be a huge difference. And then Falk, their junior class won our junior high conference 2 years ago. They're going to be improved. We got Center Point joining back in. Center Point's they've just been constantly getting better all the time. I think they feel like they're rebuilding a little bit this year, but we go over there week 10, and I've never been over there and had an easy time. They're tough at home. Parker's Chapel, I think, is getting a little bit better, and then we got Horatio. We go over there week 5. And I think, I think the bodies I saw on film last year look like, they're a little bit improved as well.
Well, let's get to the state part of it. I mean, man, I started breaking down 3A, and I think 3A, man, 3A and 5A, man, it's, I mean, like you look at 7A, it's kind of top heavy a little bit, 6A a little bit that way, but 3A and 5A, man, you're starting to talk about Rivercrest dropping down, was in the finals last year. Robert Hooks going over to Osceola, apparently, they're getting a lot of players. Walnut Ridge is supposed to have a great team. Hoxie, we're talking about just that one conference. You got Salem, which are playing, I believe, in a neutral site somewhere non-conference. Boonville, Charleston, Mansfield, Glen Rose. Man, there's 10 teams in here that can do something about it. And they got, Hooten has you preseason number 1. I think Coach Fimple's got y'all number 2 in our small school. A lot of expectations, there always is, but where do you're sitting at the top of the mountain right now. I say that, it's preseason, nobody's played, right. But what do you got to do to get back to War Memorial and win it, and not just by just staying healthy?
Well, I'm going to tell you, you hit the nail on the head, Jeff. That it's the best 3A's ever been. Usually when we're good and we feel like, hey, we've got a championship caliber team like last year, there's about 3 or 4 teams that can get you on a given night. Now, it was good last year also. It expanded a little bit last year. You can look at our Fordyce second-round playoff game to prove that. But you said it, this year, there's going to be some 2 and 3 seeds floating around out there that can play football. Hooks will get Osceola. They could go from a non-factor to as good as anybody in 1 year. They have that kind of talent, and he's that good of a coach. And I think they got a few from Rivercrest, but I think Rivercrest quarterback actually has went back to Rivercrest. I think he kind of went back and forth a little bit there in the spring. But, Rivercrest almost beat Harding. Didn't play tough, almost beat them. And let me tell you from experience, that's hard to do. Harding's good. And, they're going to be good, even though they lost some good players. They're going to be tough. McGee's always tough. You named 3 guys out of that conference. Mansfield, who we played in the semis, they were very good. Got a bunch of them back. Charleston and Boonville, that's a dogfight. Even if one of them's not very good, that's going to be a good game. And so that's 3 teams in that conference. There's going to be a 3 seed that can go somewhere and beat you early in the playoffs.
And that's what I see, Brian. I mean, I ain't seen it like this in a long.
I hadn't either.
You've been around it. I mean, I ain't seen it. I mean, there's Newport. There's another one. I mean,
they have the best running back in the state and one of the top in the nation. And we ain't even mentioned them yet.
I think it's going to get down to being who stays healthy. Y'all got tradition, and well, of course we love our Curly Wolves on our show and keep up with you guys and man, it's going to be a dogfight. Like I said, but I tell you what, I have seen in 3A, and I'll get you off here is. Guys are playing each other. You're going out and playing Salem. Yeah. You're playing Salem. Mansfield's going out and playing them. There's a lot of different people. These top 10 or 12 teams, you look at their non-conference, which is tough. I mean, they're going out and challenging, getting ready for the playoffs, obviously, early on. But all these conferences are going to be, whoever gets in's got a pretty good team. Somebody's going to be sitting at home with a good team.
That's
also.
right. Like you said, the Salem game, we're playing them. It's the second game, but it's actually, technically week 1.
Yeah.
And that's going to be at Hendricks College in Conway. Going to be a fun night. Should be great football. They got upset by Mansfield on maybe the last play of the game or something, a big stop, or we would have traveled there last year. They were 11-1, I think. So we got together. Their coach he's a lot like Coach Keithley. He don't dodge, competition. As soon as we talked, he was wanting to do it, and I was like, hey, we need a game. Let's get together. We got to meet somewhere, though. We didn't want to drive 4 hours. So, but, I think it's going to be a fun game. They've got a bunch back. I think their sophomores last year were outstanding. Matter of fact, I know a coach, Matt Porter, that was at Atkins. He's a Prescott guy. I've been friends with him a long time. He said that junior high team 2 years ago at Salem about as good as he had ever seen. Yeah. So those guys are going to be juniors. But even though they lost a few, they're going to be replaced by some of them bodies, I figure. And that's going to be a test. It'll be a big test. It don't matter a lot from week 2 to week 11, but, it'll give you an idea of where you stand, kind of.
I think it does. And like you talked about, you play those teams, where you're at, where you got to work on. And then, it just gets you ready for the playoffs, because your chances are, man, you might see them down the road again. I mean, it's just part of it and everything. Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on, take time out of your day. I know getting ready, first day of practice, it's not too warm down there in Prescott, is it?
I tell you what, Jeff, it's turned summer down here. It's officially here today.
No doubt. Well, thank you, Coach Glass. We'll have you on during the year, obviously, and we love your program, love what you do, and love the way you treat kids. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks,
all right, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Boy, you can feel Coach Glass is ready to get back to it, man. Those guys, they were on a mission. And let's talk about Prescott a little bit in this 7-3A. I mean, Bismarck's a team that went a long ways last year in the playoffs, but you can feel with Coach Glass, they're used to winning championships. They felt they had a great chance last year, and they feel like they're back in it. Daryl, talk to us a little bit about the 7-3A with Prescott, Bismarck, Harmony Grove, Center Point, Falk, and all that bunch.
Well, it's got a little switch up here because you got a new quarterback at Prescott. I think he's a little excited about this guy, too. So we're all going to get excited about him, too, because, last year he played special teams and, we tried to throw in the ball a little bit, but we're really excited about Dakari Prater taking over for Yates, who was a heck of a player. Definitely showed that in the entire run they had last year. Offensive line-wise, I think they're back. They've got some players back up front. Got a senior, Latavian Lofton, that's coming back. So, you can't beat, once again, the Curly Wolves. I think Coach Glass coaches probably 24/7. I'm going to say
he does.
I'm going to say that guy's right now, he's coaching them up somewhere. He's probably hard to handle when he gets at home. And Bismarck is scary because of, once again, we got some coaches' kids. Coach Keita, he did good there. I don't know, his wife might have been a spectacular athlete, but I'm telling you right now, Ben Keithley's going to be the quarterback. Very intelligent passer. They rave about the knowledge of the game and so forth, and you get what you get out of a coach's kid, and I think that's going to be something big for him. He's got a younger brother that's going to play some running back, wide receiver for him. So you look for them to compete, and once again, they've got 10 returning starters on offense. They lost a wide receiver last year. Yeah. That's it. So you got to kind of like that. You got that coming back. But, man, you can't go against the Curly Wolves, man.
So Bismarck.
But once again, you can get opposite of them.
Get opposite of them. Because Bismarck, though, they had probably the best win in program history last year in the playoffs they went to Charleston.
Yes, sir.
And upset them in a huge game.
Yes. Well,
and these guys are all coming back from that team. And I'm excited about them. Look for them the first week of the season. They play Mansfield, whose defense is is really, really good. So me and Laney Beavers at Fearless Friday were setting up their game for their Thursday night game of the week. Yeah. We had it all set up. I was like, you got to see the Bismarck Manfield. So we had it done. Then the Hogs changed their game to Thursday. And so all the TV cameras are going to be in War Memorial that work for Fearless Friday. So we had to move it back to Friday. But I was really excited about that game.
You look at their schedule. Coach Keithley, he's challenging.
He's not messing around.
At Mineral Springs, and then he goes to Glen Rose. I mean, so he's putting it all out there. He's like, this is the year. He's going all in.
I mean, I'm telling you.
Pushing the chips to the middle right here.
He's playing for the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's getting ready.
Yeah, he ain't scared.
Guys, I'm just going to ask you a quick question. What do we see that all these teams we're talking about that are going to be heading towards conference championships, competing for them? What do they all have? They got a quarterback, they got a runner, and they got skilled people that they can get the ball to them and they can go.
But there's a lot of teams that have a lot of skill players that don't have any line that aren't going to win a game.
Yes, you gotta have the Nick Saban says you gotta win it up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Well, and I'm with you because to me that's high school football.
Well, you look at Prescott too, though. Defensively, they got KJ Page back. He had 105 tackles. Levante Gleason had 81. Dakari Prater had 64. Of course, he's going to be our quarterback. How you like that?
Well,
our quarterback had 64 tackles.
We're not questioning his toughness.
We're not afraid to stick his head in there.
Glass told me.
Field with touchdowns and then get out there and play defense.
Exactly.
Glass told me he's going to rest him on defense until he needs him. He's like, because I need him at quarterback. And he's like, so until he.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if he's returning punts. That's the other thing. You got Jaden Pirtle back with 61 tackles. They got 4 guys over 60 tackles coming back. And then you got Dwayne White on the outside that had 55 catches for 960 yards, 11 touchdowns. He's the guy now. And there's no telling what happens. Like I said, Glass is coaching 24/7, 365. Right now, he's
those
figuring
Prescott
out
receivers
what
though are so shifty. You don't understand how quick they are and hard to tackle when they get the ball out there. I mean, they're all game changers. And can take it 80.
Page was our leading tackler. Now he's going to be their leading running back.
Yeah.
I mean, so we've got that guy too. We're not afraid to use them both ways. You got to do what you got to do.
You gotta have your best 11 out there.
I think that's why he's 48-5.
Exactly. Well, let's go to the 8-3A. You got McGee, Fordyce, traditional power, obviously. Dumas. Let's do this. You got Barton in there. Let's go ahead and bring on our Lindsey guest of the week, Coach Lovelady, from the head coach at Dumas. Coach, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, hey, Coach, let's just get into it real quick, man. Before we just got going off there, we're talking about how tough 3A is going to be because, of course, this is going to be something different for you, also in a different conference. Before we dive into that, hey, you got 7 starters back on offense, I believe, in defense, just kind of what I'm reading up. You read up some things change over the summer nowadays like crazy. But talk to us a little bit about your team and where you fall in the conference-wise. It looks like the coaches have you pick third, and, that league's tough. But let's just talk about your team just for a little bit.
Well, I like my team for starters. I like what we got coming back. We got a lot of guys with experience coming back on both sides of the ball. I did lose a quarterback, so that's big, putting a new guy in that position. But a lot of experience. A lot of these guys have played since sophomores, and they got a lot of experience, and we could do a little bit more. And dropping down to 3A kind of fits us better for its numbers-wise. But it's like you said, 3A is not going to be a cakewalk or anything like that. A lot of great teams, especially in our conference. some traditional powers. You got the Bardens, the Risings. We still got to play McGee. You got I said Rising Barden. You got Lake Village.
Yeah.
You got Lake Village. You got McGee. You got Fordyce. That's who I'm forgetting. Yes, Fordyce. I can't forget them. We played them in 7-on-7 a little bit this summer, and, man, they got some dudes. So it's a tough league. You got Drew Central, the Lake Villages. You got those guys, and then Tyler over there at Palestine going to run the flex bone. So you got a lot of competition in this league.
Well,
That's
it
just
is.
our league, not the total 3A.
Yeah, I mean, that's just talking about your league. And I've had Coach Glass on here, Coach Hooks, and some other guys from just talking to and interviewing about. Let's dive into this three. I mean, you're dropping down, and most of the time, in my experience, each time somebody dropped down, hey, means you're the biggest, the biggest fish in the pond a little bit. It's always good news. But my gosh, I'm sitting there looking at this deal. Preseason, I believe Hooten's got Prescott number one. I think Daryl Fimple's got number two. You got Boonville, who's just rolled last year. Rivercrest, who had a shot to beat Hardy Academy, has moved up to 5A. I mean, Mansfield's in the mix. Charleston, McGee. You're talking about Newport just gets one of the best running backs in the state, could be the nation. Hooks is turned around to Osceola. I'm sure Salem, Bismarck, where they came from last year. Fordyce, just Donna, Glen Rose. I mean, you guys kind of roll it up and let's talk about it. I mean, I think, and the word is always any coach is going to be health. But outside of health, where do you fit in this mix and what's it going to take to win it? Because one thing about you, you've been around winning programs with Coach Bowling there at Pine Bluff. Y'all, you know what it takes to get to War Memorial. You know what it takes to win. And so, I mean, you look at that and you've been around, you've been 6A and different 4A now. Have you ever seen this much depth in one classification?
Not really, man. To be honest, it's a lot of depth. Like you said, health, that's probably the main thing you're going to have on your side. But, like I said, we got a lot of experience. I think we're in the mix. Some things got to fall our way. The ball got to bounce our way with some things. But, we could do a lot up front for us defensively, coverage-wise on the back end. We got a lot of guys with a lot of experience. Now, of course, those guys are having to play both ways, which they've done some of that because of our numbers in the past. So I feel like our guys can handle that. Like I mentioned before, we got a new quarterback. So, we're bringing him along. We did a lot of 7-on-7s and team camps this summer to kind of speed his progress up. But the pieces around him, if we can stay healthy, I like our chances. Just give us a chance and we'll figure it out. It always comes down to those little details when you get in the playoffs and start trying to make that run. So I like our chances,
But let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about your non-conference play list a little bit. How did you set that up? And, going to a different conference and people, let's throw that. I don't know if people understand this is you got an idea a little bit, you're dropping or not dropping this and that, how that works. And then all the conferences all get scrambled up and you're looking for non-conference game. So you don't sit around like back in the day or even colleges do where, you got a year, a couple of years down the road, I know what the conference is going to look like or there changes. Being this deep in this conference, in this league, what's your non-conference? Were you just trying to find games or did, you schedule people for certain reasons?
Well, I schedule them for certain reasons. I felt like they would prepare us for the season. We start off with Star City. Star City is a good program. They have a new coach, of course, but good program. And we basically have it as a trophy game now, the Bayou Bowl. So it's big around there. So we definitely wanted to keep that. So we'll start off with them. It'll be a great game, great rivalry that we have going on with them. And then we'll have Hamburg, which, Blake, I'm good friends with Coach Johnson down there, and I know they're going to play good ball, so they'll help prepare us for the conference season. And then we play Monticello. And, Monticello is a good program as well. They fared well last year in our former conference, and always good ball. So I look for that schedule to prepare us for our conference schedule.
Well, you don't have to travel too far either. That's other good positive.
No, and that's big too. That helps with Gates, because we got two of those games at home. So I was mindful of that as well.
I got to pay the light bill, baby. We got to get millage, man. You know how it works. Well, exactly. Coach, I'll get you off here, man. I appreciate your time. I mean, we're doing this late at night. And you're coming off the practice field, but I appreciate it. Hey, we're always pulling for you, and hey, we'll see you down the road.
Appreciate you for having me, Coach.
All right. Thank you. See you, buddy. Good luck.
All right.
All right, Daryl, let's look at this 8-3-8. You know, down there in McGee, down in South Arkansas, getting down dirty down there. Coach Loveley's been there. You know, he understands success with, being at Pine Bluff for a long time. He's trying to get that program turned around. They're in the mix here. Coach has got them pick 3, but the coach has also got a McGee Owls, who's traditional power, pick number 1 along with Fordyce.
Just historically look at this league, right? You got McGee, all right? You've got Fordyce. You've got Dumas. You've got Barton, Risen. Drew Central, bless their hearts, but they're in their Palestine Wheatley. But did you just hear the front of that? That's Arkansas football right there that we just talked about. So you've got some in the same league. You got McGee that's coming off of a 5-5 year last year, but they returned so many kids on offense. They're the wing T too. So I think the Owls are picked to win this league. But man, I think it's a toss up. I hope Dumas. I can see Dumas, but you got Fordyce in there. The Red Bugs aren't going anywhere either. That schedule is pretty tough too. They're going to play Mineral Springs the third game. Fordyce is. So they're all stepping out there to play each other. But man, what a historic conference this is. And like I said, I think you got 4 teams right there at the front that are historically great, and you don't know who's going to beat who because every one of them's a rivalry.
Yeah.
Barton ain't scared of Fordyce. This is what they pay for, and like I said, there's nothing better than 2A. The 8-3A is hard to beat traditionally. That's for sure.
That is
a lot of if I can for once, a lot of tradition.
Oh man.
In this 8-3A, a lot of tradition.
Well, some of these kids' grandparents won a state title. You don't think Grandpa's up there with a chair. Sure. He's in a lawn chair. Yeah, he's telling them right now. Back in '90, I won one of these guys.
When I was playing at Barton, we had Bruiser Pryor.
My season ended into the Fordyce Red Bugs at PA. Took a sack on fourth, then fumbled the ball, turned it over. And became good friends with those guys. But they've always had great tradition. But last year, I think, if you look at this is a crazy stat. They lost to Prescott 7-6. Was it the first round or second? I don't remember.
I think it's second round.
Yeah, okay. And so, just thinking about that, that's a 1-point loss to a team that had a chance in the final minute to win the state championship. And so, Fordyce is going to be back.
I think so, and you hit this with.
Well, they got Brenton Sledge back. He's a 1,000-yard rusher once again. You get to these areas right here, we're running behind one guy. We're winning one war up front. So you got to look for Fordyce to, hand that sucker off quite a bit and see what he can do. He had 146 carries last year with 8 touchdowns. So. I think Fordyce, they're going to make some noise here. But like I said, I think you got 4 teams you can just shuffle around.
Yeah.
And once again. Them schools that, you get somebody banged up, they're playing 80 snaps a night.
And Risen has a new coach, Chris Vereen, who's had, successful, knows that area. His dad coached at Whitehall. He's been at Star City, been at Hot Springs. He's going into that program. They like to win over there at Risen.
They do. They like to win.
If you don't win, they'll let you hear about it. They'll let you know about it too. But that league there is just crazy. And let's just do this. All right, Thomas, we're going to start with you, then hit Daryl, then Mouth. Overall look at this 3A. Obviously we're high on Prescott, but I'm sitting there and I keep looking at Boonville going, well, what are we doing here, guys? What's going on? You got Rivercrest, Daryl, you're high on. Me and Thomas are really high on Osceola a little bit, Walnut Ridge. We're Charleston, Osceola, Salem. Bismarck.
So Prescott, I think, is the most athletic and I think that has the best chance. But of course, you obviously got to do it in the playoffs. Boonville, I'm gonna give them some bulletin board material here. Maybe I don't know. I think Charleston wins that conference.
Wow.
Hey,
I do like it. I'm texting Doc right now.
Here's the thing about Charleston too is that the Carter Little kid got hurt. I mean, you got your quarterback come back. You got a kid come off ACL injury. You know, once again, you lose those guys, and it's huge. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if Charleston. I got them in my top 6, kind of sneaking around in there. But
Osceola could possibly make a run. Then Rivercrest is Rivercrest.
Well, let's go, Daryl. What's your overall?
You got to figure about Mansfield too now. I've got my 6. I got Prescott, Boonville, Rivercrest, Mansfield, Walnut Ridge, and Charleston. It's kind of my sleeper in that bunch. You look at Boonville, what they've got coming back. Defensively, I think they're always going to be solid, and they're not going to turn the ball over.
Yeah.
They're just going to make you work and grind it down there. And like I said, Doc's done that for years. You got some outside guys looking in, but man, I think it's really going to be a toss-up between Boonville and Prescott. And I think Rivercrest is my outside pick. Of course, like Coach said, you've got Newport, you've got Osceola, you've got some guys that can sneak around in there too. So I think it's really going to be a competitive year.
And it might be who can stay healthy. Mouth, what's your take on 3A?
Well, you know what I always say. I got to go with Boonville because till they're beat. Till they're beat. Till
such a bandwagon.
Yeah.
Such a bandwagon.
Yeah. Give them some good stuff here.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. Whoever wins the 3A state championships got a heck of a football team.
Yeah.
And because they've had to go through the grinder.
This, I think, is the most competitive.
Oh, no question.
No there's
question.
not one team that's favored. I mean, there could be 8 teams that win this.
Yeah. All right, last take. You've nailed your 3A people down. You've nailed yours. Thomas has nailed yours down. I think these 2A and 3A is going to be very competitive. Well, let's do this. For Thomas, you guys coming on, we got 2 gift cards for Daryl.
Bam.
And you for the All-American Steakhouse in Springdale.
I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Steak, red meat. That's what we just talked about. Red meat programs right there.
Well,
Don't think Fordyce ain't cooking, grilling something up right here. Yeah. Barton's grilling something up. They're grilling up championships in Prescott. I tell you what they're doing in Prescott. They're grilling.
Exactly.
Yes. They wish they had an All-American Steakhouse.
Well,
They got the what is it? Flying burger.
Flying burger, baby.
Exactly. Well, for Coach Jeff Williams, Coach Daryl Fimple, the Mouth Print Bender, Thomas Thrash, we'll see you next time.